So here we are headed back to Elkmont Campground in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. If you come from I-26 onto I-40 east to west from North Carolina into Tennessee, I highly recommend getting off at exit 447 and following the back roads. As you can see, it's kind of a different experience. It's not interstate, and it gives you a better look at the countryside. You'll work your way over to Highway 321 and then through Gatlinburg and right into the Elkmont Campground. So once we arrive at the campground, you can see it's fairly wooded. In the summer there'd be lots of shade, but even with the woods you can see other sites. Each site has a picnic table, a fire ring, a tent area, a place to park, post. There are no water or electric hookups at the site. Here you can see one of the gravel tent areas. Anybody who's set up a tent on one of these knows they're not very comfortable to sleep on. It's tough to get it's tough to get your stakes in. We're going to do that again. As we do a walk around of the campsite, you can see that we have our rooftop tent and our vehicle sitting there. There's a picnic table and that I showed you earlier, and the grill and everything. Some things to keep in mind about the campground is we were there in November, right before they closed, and the sites were $17 a night. The area was not full, as you can see. There are plenty of campsites available. The campground is a series of loops. It's one large loop with little intersecting loops, roads that cross through the large loop to divide up this big circular area. Challenge with that is as you drive around the campground, if you miss your campsite or you happen to drive past your road, you've got to circumnavigate the entire loop system in order to get back to your campsite. Here you can see when you check in, you have, typically of many sites, you have a pole that you sign your paper and you put it on that pole. After years of tent camping, we decided to buy a rooftop tent, and we have found that that is really a great way to camp on these sort of sites because of the gravel pads. Here you can see the water fountain and the water spigot next to the bathhouses, and the bathhouses have a toilet and a sink and a mirror, but no showers. Nowhere in the campground can you find showers for the campers to use. This is a wash house for your dishes. I showed it in my last video about Elkmont. There's a little sink in there for you to wash dishes up. They do warn you about bears in this campground, and so you do want to be careful to keep your food put away, just to keep from attracting any sort of animals. There is a little trail near the campground that they call a nature trail. It's a real easy walk. The trail takes 10-15 minutes tops if you keep walking. Now there's this creek, and there are a number of interesting things to look at along the way. Some benches, the creek. There's an area where the rhododendrons have grown up and over the trail. You can see here that the trail is really set up for even young folks that can hike it and really enjoy it. Along the trail there are these little signposts numbered 1 through 12 if I remember correctly, and it is a self-guided tour of the trail. The maps cost either 50 cents or $1. They're at the trailhead. You can pick one up and then it'll give you information at each post marker so that you can enjoy, learning about trees or rhododendron or different elements that you see along the trail. Here to your right, you start to pick up one of the wooden benches, and you can sit and relax and enjoy the woods. Keep in mind you are in the Great Smoky Mountains here, and so there are no shortage of trails near this area where you can go and hike and enjoy yourself. This is an easy one right next to camp. You can walk to it from your campsite, but if you really want to get into some hiking, obviously you'll want to pick up a trail map at the Sugarlands Visitor Center, which isn't far from the campground, and you can hike for hours and hours and hours at a time. I think one of the real neat things about the Elkmont Campground is, even though the campground is nice in and of itself, is the fact that Elkmont originally was a town, a lumber camp in the Smoky Mountains, and it functioned for a number of years as a lumber camp, and then became a place where wealthy people from Knoxville would come and build mountain homes in the 20s and 30s, and some of those were used all the way up into the 90s. And so right near the campground is this area called Daisy Town. And Daisy Town was an area where people would come and build these summer homes, and they were occupied. And it's interesting in that it's like a ghost town, and you can wander up and down this street. They've paved it, but you can wander up and down this street to these homes that have just been abandoned. There are signs everywhere that say no trespassing, do not enter. I imagine that is for safety's sake, because a number of them are falling down. There were plenty of people walking around and entering into the homes and looking through them, and there wasn't a ranger there or anything to say no. I imagine if the rangers did come up there, they'd probably tell you not to go in the homes, since the signs are there say U.S. property, no trespassing. But it's really neat to see these old homes, everything from a log cabin, which you saw earlier, to these more modern homes with electricity. Then on the other end of the campground, on the entrance road, is a place called the Wonderland Hotel. And the Wonderland Hotel is a hotel that was used for people to escape and enjoy the Smoky Mountains and see the view, and was considered a really well-to-do, wealthy place. And so the Wonderland Hotel is no longer there, although you could see it on the sign. Some of the remnants of the hotel are there. An old chimney, an old fireplace. And then near the hotel are a number of homes that are also falling apart and abandoned. And these homes were used all the way up, well, the hotel was used all the way up to 2001, and the homes were used up until that time, I suppose, as well. The homes have modern amenities such as electricity and water and plumbing, and obviously it's deteriorated and the homes are beginning to collapse. But it's really neat to see those sort of items, because you don't expect to be out in the woods and see modern, I'll say modern homes, but homes that are not all just log cabins with no modern amenities in the condition that these homes are in. So it's really a neat experience, and you can wander through it, and it's right there by the campground. Because of the proximity to Gatlinburg, Elkmont and the surrounding areas in the Smokies are very, very busy, but well worth taking some time to explore and look at. But you will see a lot of people. I know the roadside areas were packed when we went by, but it was well worth the time to go visit.